welcome to another tutorial video. Today's one, I'm going to show you how I created this really cool moon in the background on this card, plus showing you how I do all of the rest of the bits and pieces on the card. But the main technique is this cool moon. So this is something that Fran from Stampedous used to do years ago. I started off by finding the set of embossing powders that Stampedous used to sell that you could use to create a beach, which was one of her demos that she used to do a lot. She used to have like this pancake griddle thing, this gigantic griddle, and she'd do these demonstrations where she put embossing powder, ultra thick embossing powder, and then normal embossing powders on top of like Greyboard cutout shapes and stuff, and then often she would like stamp into them with stamps as well, and that is what she would use to do for the beach scenes. But I remembered this technique from literally like 10 years ago, I think it was. I saw her do it, and I was like, oh, hang on, I really want to play around with that because I've been really enjoying embossing powders recently, and I really wanted to give it a go, but I didn't really want to have to get like some kind of massive pancake griddle thing to use it with. So I was looking on Amazon and I found this. It's a little 8-inch. It's supposed to be a pancake maker, or it comes with this lid, which I thought would actually be quite useful, but it gets so hot you actually don't need the lid to keep the heat in. But it also comes with this lid because you can use it to make popcorn. But I went for this one over the bigger sort of crepe maker that I saw on Amazon because I just thought this is a nice sort of size, and if I was going to work on an actual panel for one of my cards, it would fit on there as well, and it's a bit smaller to have on your desk and better for demoing and stuff. So if you would be interested in you know, trying any of this sort of stuff out, something like this works nicely. Although I would say, if you didn't mind it taking up more space, try and go for one that has a temperature dial on it, because this one is literally just on off and it gets really hot. So you'll probably see me turning it off and on throughout doing the demonstration, because it tends to get too hot and you don't need it to be like keep heating it up to that temperature. So I turn it off so it keeps it warm and the powder still melts, but you don't have to actually have it on the whole time. So you might see me turn it on and off and stuff. I'm not sure if I'll mention it, but if I don't, that's why I'm turning it on and off. But for this demo, I'm going to do some more throughout this advent as well. Definitely one more, possibly other ones as well. I haven't 100% decided yet, but what I've done first of all for this, so it comes like this, and this is what you would make your pancakes on, but I don't want to work straight onto this in case I want to transfer something off of it, and I don't want to make it like really grubby and dirty. So I bought this cheap set of non-stick mats from Amazon as well at the same time as buying this. However, I thought they were going to be like a proper craft sheet, but they're really not, and over time, keep on using it, little bits of the embossing powder can get through the weave on this. So even though it's non-stick, it's kind of got a little bit of texture and holes in it, so it's not really very good for this. But I've left that big one there, which I used one of my largest pierced circle dies from Sue Wilson to cut so it would fit in there. To go on top of this, I then use the next size down of my circle dies to cut my old Easy Clean mat that came with my Tim Holtz Media mat, and I've been using that on top of here, and that is a much nicer surface for peeling off your embossing powder and keeping clean. But it has a sticky back to it because it's supposed to cling to the glass, and I wasn't sure how well that would fare right against the hot, so that's why I've left this brown one on here, so that it's kind of protected a little bit. And if whatever the clingy stuff is on the back of this, if it goes funny, it's going to stick to the brown mat, not onto the actual machine. But it's been working fine so far. So that is how I've set up my little machine. Then I have got some Greyboard, which is the tonic Greyboard, because it's really nice. If you've ever bought Greyboard before and been like, oh, I'm not going to spend on it, I'm going to go and get some cheap stuff off of eBay, if you've smelt it, you'll probably know why I'm going for the tonic one, because the tonic one doesn't smell. The cheaper stuff, it smells like a recycled telly paper, you know, it's got that horrible, almost like a sewery smell to it. So the tonic one doesn't smell, so if you don't like that kind of strong smell, I know it doesn't seem to affect some people, but at certain times I seem to really be able to smell smells really strongly, and I really don't like the smell of it. So the tonic stuff is perfect. So I've cut this using, where did I put it here? a die that I got years ago when I did a Spellbinders order. It was like a freebie, and it's one of their contour steel rule dies, and it's just got basic shapes on it. So it's got a circle, hexagon, triangle and diamond, and the circle on this is the perfect size for mounting onto here. But if you didn't have one like that, and you had any of the old dies that Tonic did that were their media dies with the really thick cutting edge, the clock from that had a circle that was practically the same size as this circle. So if you did want to cut your own Greyboard, or you can buy Greyboard as well. One of the other demonstrations I'm going to do for another Advent video, I bought a shaped Greyboard because I really like the shape of it. You can paint this white. We're going to start with a white base for this one because I felt like it would work nicely with the colours that I'd picked. You can paint this white, however, if you paint it white and the heat that this one gets to, it wants to curl the Greyboard up and then everything wants to puddle into the middle of it. This does get a little bit warped, just the normal Greyboard with the heat and everything, but I found when I had gessoed it to make it white, it really curled. So I would say don't gesso it. I think it's better without gessoing it. So this is what we're going to create. I was just experimenting the other day and playing around with some different colours, and I really liked how this looked like a moon. I mean, I know it's probably not quite the kind of colours of the moon, it would probably be more on the grey white sort of side, but this has got gold, white, silver, black and some holographic sparkle in there as well, which was in one of the embossing powders, and I just thought it looked so lovely as a moon. And then I remembered that I had this die set from Sue Wilson, which is her little Christmas Village die set, which was in her July release from this year. And I just could not resist turning it into a moon and putting Santa and his reindeer flying in front of it. So I'm actually going to do two in this video because I liked it so much. I'd quite like to have, you know, a few of the cards ready to send out to people. So I'm going to start by showing you the moon, and then we'll do the background, and then we'll heat emboss our sentiment to match with that as well. So first of all, the colours that I've used of embossing powder. Firstly, I've used clear. I'm kind of running out of clear now. I bought this ages and ages and ages ago, and I've really been making a big dent in it recently because I've been trying out so many different bits and pieces. But I've got clear. You also want white. I don't actually have any ultra thick white, but I have the embossing sprinkles from Francoise, which are fantastic for sprinkling on your card and heating from underneath to give like a snowfall effect as well. So I'll probably do that in another one of my CRaFTi Advent videos. Then I'm also using a couple of ultra thick embossing powders from Creative Expressions and Cosmic Shimmer, but from years ago. I don't know if they sell them anymore, but I got them cheap at my local garden centre, and this one is vintage tarnished silver and vintage tarnished gold. So they're both basically just a mixture of black and silver or black and gold as the little coloured crystals in there. Then I'm also using this one, which gives you the sparkle. This is one of Cosmic Shimmer's brilliant sparkle embossing powders in Pharaoh Gold. It looks silver because it's got silver holographic glitter in it, but it is actually a gold embossing powder. And then you could eliminate having either of these two and just using this one, because it's got all the same colours in, well, almost all the same colours in. But I'm also using this WoW one that I bought, which is called Obsidian, and it's got black and white and silver inside it. So I'm kind of mixing up a lot of different ones here to play with, and all of the ones that are in those large containers I have decanted into little pots that I had for bead organisation, just because it's kind of easier to have a smaller pot open on your desk. You're not as likely to make it go flying everywhere and lose your entire pot of something. Plus, if you want to sprinkle it straight from the pot, it's much easier to kind of sprinkle it from a bottle that has a smaller spout. So that's why those are in small bottles, in case you were wondering. So those are all of the colours that I'm going to be using. I've got 6 different colours altogether, but this is just what I was doing. You can play around with just single colours. Lots of the ultra high ones that WoW do have lots of different colours in them as well. I also bought the Queen of Hearts one, which has silver, gold, red, black and white in, I think, and that looks fantastic for a different kind of effect as well. But for this I've kept to black, silver and gold, and then white as well, and then we've got the clear, so we don't have to use so much of the white. The clear will kind of help it go a little bit further. So I've not filmed doing this before, so if I get a little bit panicky, that's why I'm going to do 2. So hopefully if I miss something the first time round, you'll see it the next time. So I'm going to turn it on so it's going to get nice and warm, and I'll zoom you in as much as I can without it not liking being in focus. I think that looks like it's in focus. And we're going to put one of our circles on here. We can start working before it's heated up. It does heat up pretty quickly, but we can start working straight away. And we want to go first. So you can do this however you want to, but when I'm saying we're going to do this first, that's just how I did that one on the finished card. So you can do it however you like to. And I don't know if we're going to get the exact same results doing it this way, but I remember how I did this to kind of get those white striations going across it. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of recreate it. And I have to stop waffling because it gets hot quickly and I keep waffling. So first I'm going to sprinkle on some clear. And this is how Fran would do her ones. She would start with some clear and then she'd use opaque powders on the top. So for this one I'm going with white because I kind of want that white to be a nice solid background colour. And some of these sprinkles in the Francoise one are like massive crystals. So if we find that they're not melting evenly, what I've been doing, I've been taking one of these tiny little ball tools, this is one from Poundland, so that I can hold on to it. And then I'm also taking one of the silicone spatulas from Tonic, because if the embossing powder dries on this, you can just peel it off once it's cooled down. But if you're using a metal knife, which I will be using later as well, if the embossing powder dries on this, you might not be able to peel it off because it's sort of metal, it kind of wants to stick to it, but you will be able to heat it again later with your heat gun and then wipe it off with some kitchen roll. So as this is starting to melt, I'm going to just try and spread this around a little bit because I want quite a nice even coat of white over the whole thing. And you might find you need to add more in, or you might find you can get away with it. And then we can also use this other tool to kind of help us poke off whatever gets stuck onto the spatula as well. But we can just sort of wait for this all to melt nicely because we want a nice white layer to help give this a nice sort of solid base, so we're not seeing that dark greyboard where the clear is kind of soaked into it. So I think that looks like pretty good coverage. Now at this point I will just tell you when I turn it on and off. I'm going to turn it off because it's got to a good temperature. And then what I did first was I brought the Pharaoh Gold Sparkle and I did it in 3 separate lines. So I took my little spoon from Nuvo. I don't know if I'm being quite as careful as I was before, but I'm doing it in like 3 separate lines across, and this is what gave that sort of like striation pattern across it, because I don't know whatever's in this, it just wants to push the white away, and then all of this sort of like wicks out the gold powder, and then you've got all the sparkle in there. Then I came in with one of my tarnished ones, and I'm just pressing my finger in there to pick up some of it, and then I'm just going to sprinkle it on just wherever I feel like it looks like it should go nicely. And we're just going to do that with the other 2 as well. So we sprinkled on the tarnished silver and the tarnished gold, and then we'll finish off with a little bit of the obsidian, and if we want to we can also come back in with a little bit of Francoise's white as well. Oh, actually no, I didn't have to add the Francoise white. There's white in the obsidian, that's what I'm thinking of. So the obsidian's got silver, black and white in, and these are actually smaller particles than those ultra thick ones that I just used, so it gives even more of like a speckly kind of look. But it's really pretty. This one doesn't look quite so sparkly as the original one. I'm not really sure why, because I have done everything exactly the same, but as I said before, it's kind of like a very serendipitous kind of process. Like you never really know what you're going to get the next time you do it. So I might try and put a little bit more of the Pharaoh's Gold on top and see what happens. See, that's actually just kind of getting rid of some of the other bits. Oh, I quite like that though. I think maybe a little bit more of the obsidian, because it's got smaller little particles in it. It's kind of like filling in a little bit better. Okay, so we've got our moon done again. Don't worry, I will show you another one because I want to make a couple of them. But to move this around to make sure it's got nice edges, we can just slide that around on the mat and the heat kind of does the edges nicely. Then you can pick it up and put it on your scrap paper. So we have got a little bit of mess on here, but we can clean that off afterwards. So I'm going to go with my next disc because I want to do another one. And it's not on at the moment, it's still off. So I will turn it back on, but we might as well put the clear and the white on here first. And the clear, I think, is one of the cheapest ultra thick embossing enamels, so it's nice to use the clear so that you're not wasting something that's more expensive to buy. But these Francoise ones are really good because they're really large crystals, so you actually don't need as much as you might think you'd need, which is nice. And we have still got a little bit on here. This is probably cool enough now. So you can see how if you use a silicone spatula, it just peels straight off. And you can use that, put that back in here. If you had a melting pot, you know Ranger did melting pots years ago as well. If you had one of them, I know they're tilted on an angle, but if you could prop it up to make it straight, you could use your melting pot to do this kind of thing as well, if you wanted to give that a go. Because I'm sure a lot of you who watch my videos have been crafting for a long time, so you might have had that from years ago. I always regretted not getting one. When those embossing powders were cheap at my local garden centre, I did see that they had one, and it was in like the £20 mark, and I kind of wish I did buy it in the end. But I've got this now, so, and this is about £20, so kind of equal amounts really. I know you can't really melt things in this, but if you did want to use this like a melting pot, you could put you know the little tiny pie cases that you can get to do like little jam tarts and stuff, the little metal ones, like kind of like a cupcake case, but they're metal for making little pies. You could put those on top of this and then melt your powder in those little pots and then use it that way as well. So there's other ways of kind of using this for different techniques, and I'm sure because it's winter and it's cold and you know it's quite nice to sit over something that's really warm, I will hopefully be doing more videos using this, and hopefully you'll enjoy this one as well. So do let me know if you're enjoying seeing me use more embossing powders, and if you're enjoying me using something like this to create some different designs as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off again now. We've got all of the white on there, and then we're going to do the pharaoh again. Maybe I used the other spoon last time. Maybe I put more on, I'm not sure. We will see. I think we are just going to get completely different results each time. I think maybe it's just this angle, because if I look up actually at the camera you can see more of that silver in there, but from this angle all I can see is the gold, so I'm kind of feeling like it looks different from the original because all I can see is gold. And then we're going with the tarnished silver. And then we'll do the tarnished gold. And then we'll come back in with that wow one as well, the obsidian. And this has got the white in it too, so then that gives a different kind of look because it adds those little white speckles into it. You could also, because you know I've been using the silver and gold and silver and black mixes, if you had the two new Nouveau powders that came out in the Christmas Magic colour trend, they were black and gold and silver sort of mixes as well, and they had some ultra high or ultra thick kind of particles in them too, so you could definitely use those for this kind of thing as well. So I'll just clear all of this up and then I'll come back and show you the rest of the card. Okay, so these are the two moons that we've ended up with. You can see how gorgeous and glossy they are because they're embossing powders, and hopefully you can see that beautiful holographic glitter that's in the Pharaoh's gold. colour of Brilliant Sparkle Powder, and then you can kind of see them in comparison to the original one, so they don't look that much different. I think it's just the angle that I was looking at them at. But yeah, those are the 2 extra moons that we've got. So now I need to show you how to create the background. So I have got one already done, and I've got all my bits and pieces cut. But I've got one done ready. Is that trimmed down to size? Yes, it is. Did I trim that one as well? Yes. Okay, so we just need to stamp this background, and I'm using this one, which is the Snowstorm background from Sam Paul from her Christmas collection from 2022. Hopefully I'll be using some of her other images in one of my other Advent videos as well. I haven't decided, I've drawn a couple of card ideas out, but I haven't decided what video I'm going to do them in yet, whether it'll be a sped up video or a tutorial video. I haven't decided. And I'm going to use pumice stone Distress Oxide, because I felt like that went nicely with the goldy kind of tones that sort of popped out of that Pharaoh's gold colour. So we can ink that up and then press that into place on our background. You can do this in a stamping platform as well, or with an acrylic block. But because this one is like an all over pattern, there's not really any places in it that you could accidentally, you know, ink up the edge of the rubber and press it down in the wrong position, because there's kind of snowflakes all over the place, stopping you from pressing too hard near the edges. So I find it works quite nicely just stamping it onto the card. Although, saying that, I've smudged that. It's gone like a little double image, so I'll stamp it again on the back. I must have moved it as I was stamping. Okay, so ink it up again. Don't move it whilst you're stamping. I don't know if I moved the stamp or the card, but anyway, I moved it at some point. Hopefully this one will come out better. If not, I can just finish the other card that I've already stamped the background for, because I'll need to leave this one to dry with the splatter anyway. There we go, that's better. Then we've got our lovely snowflakes on there. Then I was using the Enchanted Gold, mine's not in real packaging, but it's the Enchanted Gold Gilded Touch from Cosmic Shimmer. And I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of that out. And then I'm going to water it down so that I can splat it into the background. Again, I thought this kind of just slightly gold pearly kind of colour would work nicely for this card, because it keeps it nice and subtle. So we can do, where's my paintbrush? There we go. Can mix that up with the water. This is like actually a wax, so you're supposed to sort of, well, it's intended to be used like one of their gilding polishes or any other like gilding wax that you might have to kind of pick out embossed detail. But I love doing splatter, so anything that is water based that's got sparkly stuff in, I always try it and see if it'll work for splatter, and it usually does. So this does work for splatter as well. And I like it because it's convenient. You can have loads of them next to you, rather than one of the metallic gilding polishes. They tend to take up more space. So if you like crafting with limited sort of supplies or less things within your close proximity, those little gilded touches might be a good idea. Okay, so we've got our splatter on there, and I'll leave that to dry, and I'll just finish off the one card, but I can finish that one later. Then don't waste your gilded touch, but I'm just going to get rid of it for now. Otherwise, if I leave it off to the side, I'll inevitably put my card in it and make a mess. So the next step is, once your background is stamped and you've got all your splatter and it's dry on there, you can decide which way up you want your background. You might find you think it looks better one way up rather than the other, and then you can decide which of your moons you want to use. I'm going to go with that one, I think. I will finish the other card though. And then for the moon, I actually stuck this down with some 3D foam because, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, it has curved a little bit. Not as much as if I had gessoed the surface beforehand, but it has curved a tiny bit. So I find if I put some of this strong 3M foam tape on the back, because it's supposed to be like a really good adhesive that you can use even in like outdoor areas and stuff for more like DIY purposes, I find it works really nicely for like holding things flat. So I'm going to use some of that, and I'll trim off any excess in a second. just use up some of these little pieces to get a good coverage over the back of it. That should do. And then we go from the front and then undercut those bits off, and that little one off to the side as well. Then we can take off the backing. Whoops, the backing, not the tape. And then we can place our moon. I think I like it with the striations going like across the moon. So I'm going to put it in the top third of the card. That's where I like to place circular elements. And it gives us space for our sentiment as well. So I'm going to put that like so. I'll zoom you in a little bit closer. And then I've cut 2 of these, which are from Sue Wilson's Little Village set, and that will be linked below the video as well, because I'm going to stack them on top of each other. I just think it makes it look a little bit nicer, and we're also going to hang the very end of Santa's sleigh off the edge of the moon, so that makes it a little bit stronger if you've got 2 die cuts on top of each other there. So we can stick them together. I love this little die. It's really nice actually having this in die form, because so many times you get sets with a little Santa with his sleigh, but it's a stamp, and in this situation it's so much easier to have a die to go in front of your moon than it would be to try and stamp onto there, or like stamp it on acetate and put it on the top or something. So having it as a die I think is a really lovely little idea. So we're going to stick that on top of our moon. We might have to leave an acrylic block on it to help that stick as well, just because we're trying to stick onto the embossing powder, which is kind of plasticky. But Cosmic Shimmer's usually pretty good at grabbing onto things. So now we've done that, we then want to take a couple of our greetings, and I decided to go for winter greetings. I just really like that gorgeous swirly font that Sue Wilson's mini expressions often have, this beautiful font, and I'm going to stack 2 black ones on top of each other to make them a bit thicker, and this is going to be like our shadow for our sentiment. And then we're going to take a white one of the die cuts, and we're actually going to use that Pharaoh's Treasure or Pharaoh's Gold embossing powder on top of the white one, because then it will tie it in with our moon. You don't have to. When I've stuck these 2 together, I'll show you just the white on top of the black, and I do think that looks nice as well. But I just thought it's quite nice if you've been using embossing powders and there's another area that you can use them on your card. It's quite nice to sort of make the effort and use it. So that's going to be our little black one, and then you can just leave it white and shadow your sentiment so it stands out nicely and just have it on there like that. But I think doing the embossing powder, if I show you them next to each other, whoops, I put it back on top of each other again. Okay, imagine that was shadowed better, but I think it looks quite nice having the sparkly sentiment. I don't know, I do think it looks nice both ways actually, but I do quite like the sparkly sentiment. I might leave the 3rd card just with a white sentiment, but I wanted to show you the heat embossing a sentiment, just in case you've not seen it before, although I think I've done it in one of my other Advent videos, so you might see it in a few days, or you might have seen it already. I don't know what order I'm going to put them up in yet. So I'm going to get a bit of scrap paper, then I need my Versamark ink pad, and you just want to squish your Versamark pad over the top of your sentiment. You can also do this to a stacked sentiment as well if you'd rather. I think that's what I did on the other one where I've shown this. Then pick that up and add your embossing powder. We're shaking it because we have been picking bits out of the pot and stuff, and we want it to be a nice even mix of the gold and the sparkle in there. And then dump it all over the sentiment. And then I like to use my pokey tool to fish it out and just grab hold of a loopy part and then pick it up. Then gently put it on your glass mat. Put the excess embossing powder away. And put the lid on. And then you can pick it up again, move it onto the scrap paper. And then get your heat tool. I'll speed this bit up and put some music on so it's not too noisy for you. We've got our beautifully heat embossed sentiment. You can do a couple of layers on that if you want to. I think one is fine actually. I think maybe I did 2 on the previous one, but I think 1 is good enough. I think last time I had to do 2 because I missed a little bit. And then we have our beautiful sentiment. So we can just shadow those together. And then we can finish off the card. I've got a card blank here as well. It should be the right size. Yes. So I'll stick this onto the card blank first. Oh, and I also want to put a few gems on here as well. So I'm just going to put Tonic's double-sided tissue tape all the way around the edges and one diagonally across the middle. And then take the backing off. And put it on our card blank. Okay, so that is the sort of main basis of the card, and then we can just shadow our sentiment and add that on the bottom. So just putting little dabs of glue all over. And then tapping that off on your hand and shadowing it with our stacked little black sentiment. Just to give it a tiny little black drop shadow. And then, same thing, to just add it onto the card. And tap off the excess and then place it along the bottom. I love how this greeting as well, it kind of looks like it's flowing up into the moon. The way that Sue does her beautiful flourishes on her mini expressions. I love that so much. And they're really reasonable in price as well. They're usually like $3.50 I think, or maybe even less, just for these individual sentiments. So if you've got enough Christmas stuff to do your Christmas cards, but you just want a few new sentiments, these are the perfect little elements to add to your stash to sort of make things look a little bit different by just adding in some new sentiments. Then for the gems, I've got, maybe I'll use these ones this time, this little packet called Glamorous. I've said this in a few videos. She was having a sale as I was, well, just before I was starting to film these videos. So I treated myself to quite a few little packs, but I noticed that this one has some little black hearts in it. I didn't know if a little black heart might look cute on there as well. We could do that one too. And then there's also black pearls in here as well. And oh, I think, oh no, is there black? No, the other one's got the black gemstones in. I might nick some black gemstones out the other packet as well. But we'll go with black pearls and then the 2 black hearts. And then I'll get some gemstones out of the other packet. It's nice having these little collections because it means, especially if you just use like, I don't know, 5, 7, 9 on a card, it means you've got all of this different variety, but you haven't had to buy a full packet of all of these different gemstones and things. So I'm really enjoying getting these. And we've got one, is that a, that's got a rainbow, oh that's a silver actually, I thought that was black. See, there's so many different ones in here. That one's a little black gem. So we put a tiny black gem there. Let's go sort of medium-sized black gem there. And then we need a couple more maybe. So we've got a bigger black gem. And tiny black pearl. There's tiny little pearls in this one as well. And this, oh, this one, did I tell you? This one is called Stargazing Collection. I think I can link to these. I think Simon Says Stamp sells these, so if I can find them, I will link to them below the video as well. And I'll definitely link to as many of the embossing powders that I can find, and the Sue Wilson dies. And I will link to Amazon for that Pancake Maker as well, just in case you're interested in it. But I've really been enjoying it. I've done quite a few little experiments. This is the first video that I'm filming with it, but I have been playing with it quite a bit, and doing some different effects and ideas, which will probably feature in some of my upcoming videos. I'll just stick all of these little gems on. See, I would never think to buy an entire packet of black heart gems, but it's really nice to have a few of them in a little mixture, so that if you felt like you wanted to put them on, you can. I think maybe little black stars would look brilliant as well. I do have some black star sequins or confetti somewhere, but they would look lovely on here too. But there we go. That is this tutorial showing you how to use your embossing powders to create an embossing powder moon, and then how to sort of finish off the card using that beautiful sample background stamp, a little bit of splatter using your gilded touch, heat embossing your sentiment, and finishing off with a scattering of little gems on there as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial video, and there will definitely be at least one more using that Pancake Maker with embossing powders during the CRaFTi Advent series. But do let me know if you like that, because I've really been enjoying playing with it, so I might as well do a few more videos on it if you would enjoy seeing that as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!